Okay. Well, thank you, Dave, for having me. I appreciate you inviting me back once again. I always enjoy these shows quite a bit, and hopefully I can live up to what what Jim Kenny said. I'll do my best. If you guys want to start typing in some symbols and all, feel free to do so. Just a couple things I'll go over while waiting for a few more symbols to come in. I just got through doing a webinar, which I do every week, and you can find that tomorrow on youtube.com/Dave Landry. Anyway, one of the things I was talking about in the webinar was a TFM 10% system. And it's a really simple system. And you're just looking for two bars of what I call Landry light. And that's two bars above the moving average. In this case, we're using a 50-week symbol. This is a weekly chart. And you look at the buy when you're within 10% of the 50-week closing high. And this is the 10% line here. So the market, when it drops from here to here, that's a 10% drop. And the thing I was telling my peeps earlier is that as long as you're within the green zone, it's kind of like, don't worry, be happy. I know, haha. But in general, the market is doing fairly well. So when you come into your office or pull up your laptop, whatever you do, and you see the market's getting creamed, your position is getting creamed, it feels like it's really big and ugly. And to you it is. And believe me, yesterday we got creamed a little bit, and it's like, oh geez, it's hard to watch. But sometimes you need a forest for the trees, or not to mix metaphors, but a 30,000-foot view to see where we are. Right now, if you take a look at the overall market, we're still doing pretty well, even though we're correcting a little bit. In fact, these corrections are actually healthy for the market. Let me pull up one more thing real quick, and then we'll get to your stock picks. So we're long a few stocks right now, a couple of golds and some biotechs and some other things. And like I said, I just did the webinar. One thing that amazed me is nearly every one of these setups, it might have been some other setup too, but nearly every one of these setups was what I call a Landry light pullback. And Linda Rasky once said, and just bear with me while I find my scans here, or my templates. Okay, here we go. Linda Rasky once said, all you need is one pattern to be successful. And I agree with Linda. And a Landry light pullback, you're just looking for Landry light, which is the lows greater than the moving average for uptrends or highs less than the moving average for downtrends. My favorite moving average on the daily chart for that is the 50-week moving average. I'm getting a no sound. Are you guys can you guys hear me okay?
No, the sound is working correctly.
Okay. Ray, turn your speakers up. Anyway, the Landry light pullback, you're just simply looking for nice Landry light, meaning lows are greater than the moving average. And then you look into for a pullback to the moving average. And you could actually run scans and all. We've got in this one right around this bar here. And so far, it's been a pretty good run. That's a gold stock. And then obviously, with everything going on in the world, defense stocks have been doing really well lately too. And here's one you can see once again, it pulled back to the moving average. Now, when you kind of need to zoom this one in a little bit to see it, but you could see right on that bar there, you had a nice little pullback to the moving average. So it's a really simple pattern. And I would suggest if you were to get started with my methodology, which is just trend following, swing to intermediate term type of trading, start off with something really, really simple like the Landry light pullback, very easy to recognize. And ideally, and again, watch that. You can go to my YouTube channel and watch the methodology and action series. And in those series, I talk a lot about acceleration and trend and persistencies and all these other things. Okay, we're getting a few stocks coming in. I'll go ahead and talk about. We'll take a look at your stocks, and then we'll hop back into the Landry light and other things. HCSG for Jan. HC. Oops. Let me just shift gears here. Okay. This one doesn't look fantastic. First of all, the first thing I see is it's kind of all over the place. Okay, getting back to like the TFPM, this is a gold stock we're long. Let me find the KTOS, might be a better example. Gold stocks can be a little choppy, but notice this KTOS. Notice that it trends nicely, and it tends to pull back and then take off again. And this is when we got in this one here. So it's almost a double since we got in. But notice how it just trends really, really, really nicely. Now, if we get back to the HCSG, you could see it's sort of all over the place. It took off and then it chopped around a little bit. Then it sold off hard. Then it took off. Then it sold off. Then it took off again. It's what I call a bit of an electrocardiogram stock or a Jackie Mason stock. I might be too old of a reference, but it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. Oh, I'm not showing the right chart. Sorry. All right, let me fix that. Sorry, my apologies. But I can get it to reshare. Okay. Yeah, we'll fix that. Okay, my little window. Okay, here we go. Stop share. Let me see if I can get reshare. All right, sorry about that. Okay. What I was saying earlier, if you take a look at the KTOS real quick, you can see that it tends to trend nicely and it has orderly pullbacks and then it trends nicely again. And then I hate to use the word hope, but hopefully that last little spill we had in here was just another orderly pullback. Okay. So getting back to the HCSG. Oops, sorry. Again, like I said a second ago, it's a Jackie Mason stock. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. There's no structure there. So I would leave that one alone for now until unless it can begin to trend. And the other thing you need to watch out for, now this is a long ways away, but always look obviously to the left side of the chart. If you find a broker that'll let you trade off the left side of the chart, then by all means, let me know. But anyway, one thing you need to watch for is this overhead supply. Now, even though this was a long time ago, there's probably still a lot of people still holding the stock, looking to get out at break even. Now, not to beat the dead horse on KTOS, but it has clear air. And you could see when we got in it way back here, there was nothing back here to kind of muck up the trade. So far, so good on that one, knock on wood. Okay, let's get the chat window is missing again. Let's see if we can get that back up. Dave, any idea where the chat window may have gone? In the meantime, if you could just give me another symbol, and I'll go from there while we try to find it. Sharing controls. Okay. Dave, can you hear me? I seem to have lost the chat window. All right, maybe if I stop the share and then start it again. Okay, here we go. There it is. Okay, next up is RKLB, and I did like that one not too long ago. Let me get the share back up. It's fighting me today for some reason. Okay. RKLB. Now this one looked pretty good up until recently, but this is a little bit more of what I'm interested in. Nice momentum to the upside. And you can see it's pulled back a little bit, but now it's begun to pull back a little too far. Just as a general statement, it's not a hard and fast rule. But in general, once you get below the 30 EMA, then the stock begins to look a little questionable. And in this case, you've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see. You've had about a month and a half of this sideways to lower trading. So I like a pullback, and I liked it a lot better not that long ago. Like right here, that's a good looking setup right there. That looks pretty good. Okay, nice accelerated trend higher and then beginning to pull back to the moving average. But then it never did trigger and it keeps trading sideways to lower. So I would pass on that one. I would definitely keep it though on your radar just in case it begins to rally again and cleans up a little. But for now, based on the length of the pullback and the depth of the pullback in this particular case, not that I'm against deep pullbacks, but in this case, it's going sideways to lower for a little too long. Let's take a look at DDOG, Datadog. Yeah, so take a look at this one here. You could see it was trending nicely. It gapped higher, and then it tried to get back to its old highs, and then it rolled back over. Now, just by chance, I have the bow tie moving averages in here, and you can see it's in downtrend proper order. So Not that I want to short this market just yet, but this looks more like a short than a long for my methodology. We like to see stocks that are trending higher, and we're buying things when they go up. And in fact, just by chance, oh crap, did this thing stop sharing again? Oh, okay. Anyway, Datadog, boy, I'm sorry today. I'm all out of it. You can see it's kind of all over the place. It made these new highs, and then it tried to rally back to old highs, roll back over, and now the bow tie moving averages, which is a 10 simple, 20 exponential, and 30 exponential, have rolled over. So this actually looks like a potential short, although I'm not shorting at this juncture. So just by chance, this is the Landry 100, and this is 100 momentum stocks, and I actually put these in when they're making brand new highs. So like this NEGG, you can see on 729, which I believe is this day here, I put it in the list. Now I wouldn't rush out and buy new highs in crypto. If you guys want to look at some crypto in a minute, sometimes you could do just that, but that's a different market. Crypto, or if we get into a market like 1999 where everything's kind of going straight up, then you might want to you could almost blindly buy stocks that are making new highs. Now, if you were going to buy stocks that are making new highs, if you buy a whole list of them, like 100 of them, or a bunch of them, I should say, then occasionally you'll catch a few home runs and maybe more than a few home runs, and it'll actually work. But this list here is actually a hypothetical list. In my trading service, I recommend specific stocks, and I personally take the stocks in more than one account, including my model account. And then I actually show how I manage the positions, and then how the chips, I show how the chips, I'll let the chips fall how they may, and you can watch those in the weekly webinars. This is hypothetical, but from this list, you'll notice there's some of the stocks that were currently long, like Kados, TFPM, KGC. This is a gold stock we're long. This is another one, okay? And these were all making brand new highs when they're put in the list. This was put in on January 1st, right there, somewhere around here, when it was making new highs. And so far, it's had a pretty good run. So I'm a big fan of buying strength over weakness. Now, we do trade the pullbacks, but we're waiting for a resumption of the trend. So back here, when it pulled back, we'll wait for that resumption of the trend before looking to get long. Okay. Yeah, we fixed that. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Cash, CASH. Okay, again, this is another one of these stocks that's a bit of electrocardiogram, okay? One of the simplest things you can do with the stock is look at the net price change. And so the easiest way to do that is just to draw a horizontal line, okay, going back in time. So we can go all the way back to December, okay? And on a net basis, this stock has gone nowhere. It's another one of those electrocardiogram type of stocks. If you look at a stock and you can almost hear beep, beep, beep in your head, that is not a trend you want to follow. So I would leave that one alone. There's too many stocks out there. Just take a look at the NASDAQ, for instance. When the NASDAQ looks like this, you can see, look how clean the NASDAQ is, okay? And a NASDAQ is an index, obviously, and indices tend to be more efficient, meaning they tend to chop around more than individual stocks. But if the overall market is trading this cleanly, then look for stocks that are also trading cleanly. And if we have time, we can maybe go through some of the Landry 100 or something and see if we could find any more of those. Okay, let's see. Cash. PLTR, I think I'm going to like this one. Yeah, so now it's a little extreme on the pullback. That's the only thing I don't like about it. It's a little too extreme, but I have to admit it's a pretty good looking setup. Okay, so who said this one? Terry, excellent job, Terry. So far you get the award for the best stock of the day. Notice this nice uptrend. It's a little wide and loose back here, but in general, it tends to pull back, trend, and pull back and rinse and repeat. It's on the cusp of being a little too extreme in this pullback, but I think it's viable. But make sure you use a liberal entry, give it some wiggle room, just in case it rolls back over. If it takes out this bar here, then I would totally ignore it. But it's on the cusp of being a little bit too deep of the pullback, but it's still okay, and certainly the best stock that we've seen all day. So Terry gets a high five on that one. Good job. Okay. Now, while we're waiting on the next ones to come in, so if we just take a look at this list, and we can look at some strong ones today, and let's see if we could find some stocks that are kind of trading cleanly. See, this one, it's a little wide and loose, but in general, it tends to work its way higher. Let's see if we can find something. See, like this one here, okay? CRDO, for the most part, it just kind of goes up. And then look at all the Landry light here, meaning the lows are greater than the moving average. It went probably 100 and something bars before touching the moving average, came down, touched the moving average, and took off again. There's that Landry light pullback pattern. So what you want to do is you want to look for stocks that trade cleanly. See, that's a stock right there, GROY. And this is a gold stock. Usually gold stocks don't trade this cleanly, but look at that. For the most part, this thing just goes up in a fairly orderly manner. Okay, MGNI. Okay, let's see what we have here. So we do have some bad memories. That's from a long time ago. That's not super important. The only thing I don't like here is we sort of just barely got past this prior high back here, okay? And then we've kind of chopped around. And once again, let's go back to that net price movement. So if we take a look at today's price and we go back in time, you can go all the way back to, what day is that? 6:30. So you have what's that? You've got 6 to 7 weeks of mostly lower trading, or even longer than that, almost 2 months of lower trading. So I would leave that one alone. There's nothing to get excited about there. Okay, very good. John Pollock Hood is going to be one that's going to look a little bit better than some of these other ones. Okay, so this thing has really been trending. Okay, so that's a great trend. Now, my only concern now is we have begun to kind of consolidate and chop around in here. It looks okay. Okay, it's not a bad looking setup. It's still in a longer term trend. It's not jumping out at me as something I have to have, but it's definitely a stock that's trending, and it's definitely a stock that needs to be on your Landry list. I mean, I'm sorry, on my Landry list is my daily watch list, your own momentum list. But look here, and just by chance, I had no idea it'd be in here. So this is Hood. I mean, well, I knew it'd be in here, but it's been in since 6.3, okay? And it's up 48% since then. And the stocks that go into this list are stocks that are making 50-week highs, and that's how I manage this list. And as things begin to deteriorate, and we take a look at some weak ones in here, they begin to come out. So here's one down 20%. So this might come out tonight. This will likely come out of the, I don't like this gap down. This was looking really good for a while, but now it has begun to fail. And so stocks that are beginning to sell off hard, especially if I can find a lot of good stocks to replace them, will begin to come out of the list. Okay, ORCL, that's Oracle. Yeah, wow, that looks fantastic. Okay, that's it. You should get a high five on that one. Yeah, that looks good. That's a good looking stock. Let me get some of these moving averages out of here. Okay, we dipped a little below the 30, but I wouldn't get too excited about that as long as you trigger in above the 30, okay? But that's a pretty good looking stock, okay? For the most part, you can see it's going mostly straight up in a fairly orderly manner. It's pulled back a little bit. It has this nice wide range bar down. It's what I call a knockout move that tends to knock out the player. So that's the second high five of the day. And Jan Pollock, I hope I have your name right, pronouncing that right. But yeah, that looks pretty darn good. Okay. So getting back to the list here again, let's see if we can find some. That one's kind of extreme, but you can see, like, here's another stock. Now, it does have a big gap and all in here, but for the most part, you can see it's worked its way higher. So you want to look for that persistency and trend, and notice that this one worked its way higher, consolidated a little bit, then it took off again. So that's the type of pattern you want to be looking for. Okay, is that IMB? Do you have another symbol? Is that LMB? Okay, so this Limbach, this doesn't look very good. You can see it's rolled over in here. It sold off fairly hard, retraced back up. This is the pattern I call a first thrust, which is actually a short, and now it's pulled back again. So yeah, if anything, this looks like a potential short, although again, I'm not shorting right now because the market is within 5% of all-time highs. And in general, the market's doing pretty good. You guys want to take a look at crypto real quick? We can do that. Well, oh, Pan W. Okay, sure. Okay, so here's another case of all over the place, electrocardiogram. Okay, so it's at 182 now and change, and you go all the way back to 1 year ago. Okay, so on a net basis for a whole year, yeah, it's had zigs and zags, but it's gone nowhere. Okay, so there's no structure here to trade around like the hood and the RKLB and all those other stocks that were trending nicely. At least they were in a trend, and you could maybe look for a place to get on the trend. But a stock like, see that this is just a random one I just picked out of the list. But look at this, it's all over the place and sideways. So for my methodology, now maybe if you're trading reversion to the mean or something, which I suggest you don't, but maybe that's a good reversion to the mean type of stock. But I would pass on that for sure. All right, let's see. Keep them coming. Let me see. I might tempt fate by going to by going over to. We'll see what happens. Okay, maybe we'll just stay in that screen. Now, see, I lose the screen share every time I do this. I need to figure out what's going on there. Okay, here we go. All right, let's do this. Okay, so while we're waiting for more stock picks to come in, we take a look at crypto. Bitcoin's been a bit of a bummer lately. You could see it made a peak here, it made another peak here, kind of a double top, which it wasn't that ugly until we broke well below that 30 EMA. So this is looking questionable at best. It seems like every time we get to these high levels, I think, and I'm confusing the issue with facts, trying to figure out what's going on, but maybe some of the early adopters are beginning to sell when you see that happen. Okay, let's see. We got some stocks coming in. Meta. All right, good. Keep them coming. All right, let's take a look at. Maybe we can do it here. Okay, yeah. This is something that's trending. There we go. Oops. Okay, now the only concern. Now getting back to the net price change. So longer term, it's trending, but short to intermediate term, you could see where is it now? 736 round numbers that go all the way back to the end of June, and it's at 736. So yeah, it's still in an uptrend, but it has lost a little bit of momentum. I say it looks okay. All right, it looks okay because technically it's a Landry light pullback, but any additional weakness will be concerned. In a case like this doesn't jump out at me as something I would trade. It looks okay. I would only buy this if it began to rally. So longer term, still in a trend. It has lost a little momentum, but it pulled back to the prior little breakout, which is okay. So it broke out, pulled back to the prior top of the breakout, but I would keep an eye on it. So one or two big down bars, and all bets are off on that one. So make sure you have a pretty serious rally before looking to trigger in. And just an FYI, I buy stocks as they go up. So I'm actually buying on strength. When I trade pullbacks, it doesn't mean I'm waiting for that market to drop and I try to catch that falling knife. I'm buying on strength. Okay. Axon, AXON. Okay, yeah, here's another case where the net price change is of concern. Okay, so notice that it's around 761 now, and you could go back several months and it hasn't made any progress. It did try to break out, but it did come back in. So I would pass on that one. Okay, any more? Keep them coming. Yeah, I would definitely pass on that one. Let's take a look at let's see what's going on with the S&P 500 today. And see, the S&P 500, like I said, you want things to trade cleanly, and the S&P 500 has done fairly well. In general, notice that it tends to work its way higher, or has tended to work its way higher day after day. That's what I call labeled persistency. And mathematically, it's equivalent to linear regression. But I just like to draw a trend line through as many bars as possible. And that's one thing that you can do is draw your trend lines through the bars when you're looking at these stocks. Okay, deep. Okay, yeah, this is an ETF. It looks really thin. I don't have average volume on this, so I can't pull it up. But this is too choppy and too thin, so I would pass on that one just because it's kind of choppy and all over the place. You want something that's a little bit more solid as an ETF. Um, or any stock for that matter. I mean, if you had to like take a look at Ethereum, the ETF, look at what a nice trend that's had, and then look at the little pullback in here. So we're down to about 2 minutes. If there's any other ones you guys want to look at, let me know. Let's see if we can get the video. That's always a good one. Okay, that looks fantastic. Okay, Terry, you get a high five. Terry, did you get a high five earlier? Well, Terry definitely gets a high five. Look at that. Okay. I feel like Tiny Elvis. Look at that tree, and it's huge. Okay. Look at all right. Terry's got the most high five today. So he's a winner. So it's accelerated higher. It's at a really, 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 really nice trend. And then this is what I call a knockout bar, this move lower. So that's a good looking stock. If you're looking to trade something, I like this particular stock. So give yourself maybe a liberal entry somewhere and here somewhere. I don't know what this, I've clicked on something I shouldn't have. I mean, not something bad, but I've got this little indicator keeps coming up. But anyway, you can see it's kind of went a little sideways here, which is okay. And then it sold off fairly hard. It has a bit of a double top knockout look to it. Not enough time to get into that within a minute or so, but you could see it sold off nicely into the 30 EMA, found a little support there. So that's a good looking stock. So Terry wins with 2 high fives today. Good job on that, Terry. Well, look, I'm pretty much out of time here. Maybe we can squeeze in one real quick. If not, obviously, Dave, thanks for having me back again. I love doing these shows. I have a blast doing them, as you could probably tell. So I appreciate you inviting me back once again.
Yeah, thanks for being here. The next presenter is not here yet, so if you want to take a few extra minutes.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah. All right. So what else is happening? Let's take a look at some markets while we're doing this. RGTI, that might be a good one. No. Okay. Let me get back to yeah, let me change back. I could share this. I could do this one a little quicker here. So let's go ahead and share. Okay. Okay. Now I would pass on this one. Okay. Obviously, this thing melted up back here. That was kind of beautiful. Then it imploded. It's just a little too wide and loose. Okay. And I would avoid it based on that. Okay. I lost the chat again. Let me stop and restart. Okay. Amazon will be the next one. And then jump in, Dave, obviously, whenever you're ready to
Okay.
shift
Yeah,
over.
he's still not here yet.
All right, no problem. So I mentioned inefficiency earlier, and what I'm trying to do, something like a KTOS, okay? So this one, not quite a double. I know I'm kind of exaggerating a little, but you want something that looks kind of like that, kind of efficient, can make these big, huge moves. And Amazon could do that at times, but it's a little wide and loose. And so you can see it dropped off, came back in again. So I would look for something a little more cleaner, and I would avoid that for now. It looks like Hans is here. So I'm going to go
Yep.
ahead and back off. I appreciate it, or whatever. Finish up. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you once again, Dave Cosmeter. Everybody have a great day. May the trend be with you. Thank you so much.